Well, hearty good evening to everyone tonight, and welcome to the Sioux Falls City Council meeting of Monday, July 18th. We're certainly pleased to have you all here. I'd like to start with identifying the city councilors that are here representing our city.
Councilors Aguilar? Here. Anderson?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Entman?
Here.
Erpenbach?
Here.
Jameson?
Here.
Karski?
Here.
Rolfing?
Here.
All the city councilors are here, like always, and we certainly appreciate their stewardship. We always start our meeting with an invocation, and tonight we're very, very pleased to have Councilor Vernon Brown will give our invocation. We'd ask you to stand, and then after Councilor Brown is done, we'll proceed with our Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Brown.
Bow your head in prayer, please. Dear God, we thank you for bringing us together tonight to make the important decisions that keep our city running. We know we live in a blessed city thanks to you, and we ask for your guidance as we continue to serve this evening. And we ask you to bless those here in attendance this evening and those watching as well. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Brown, again, thank you so much. What I'd like to do now is to acknowledge Councilor Rolfing. He has some very, very special guests here in the audience that he was able to engage for some time. Councilor Rolfing, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce you to a very fine group of young men that I had a chance to talk to for about half an hour before our council meeting tonight. Explain a little bit about our form of government here in Sioux Falls and answer some very pointed questions that they had for us about each and every one of my fellow council members. Oh, no, that wasn't. I guess we had more about how government works and how the city is run. But thank you very much to to Troop 150 from Eastside Lutheran. They're sitting in the front row there, and they're all earning some badges, and we appreciate very much their interest in city government, and thank you very much for coming, everybody.
Councilor Rolfing, thank you. And again, Troop 150, welcome. It's great to have you here. We'll start with our consent agenda. And Council, would anybody like to make a motion on tonight's consent agenda?
So move, Anderson.
Second, Entman.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Entman. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. I'm moving on to tonight's regular agenda. Council, any changes or comments on tonight's regular agenda? Very good. If I could have a motion, please.
Move to approve. Brown.
Second, Aguilar.
Councilor Brown's made a motion to approve, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. If there is no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you. That is also passed 8-0. Thank you. We will now get on with the city's business. As we always do, we start every council meeting with an opportunity for the people of Sioux Falls to engage the council. Please come forward if you'd like to touch on any topic, and we would ask you to keep those comments limited to 5 minutes or less. If there is a topic that is on the regular agenda, we'd ask you to just wait until that point in the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to engage the council? Please come forward, sir. And if you could just state your name.
I have my watch. Keep my time.
Well, very good. Thank you.
My name is Melvin Vandentop. I've been a long-term resident of Sioux Falls. Okay. On Friday, I sent you all an email, and in the email, I included a proposed resolution to the South Dakota congressman. Whereas H.R. 1489, the Return to the Prudent Banking Act of 2011, and H.R. 2451, the Reinstate Glass-Steagall Act, are now before the House of Representatives. which aims to revive the separation between commercial banking and the securities business in the manner provided in the Banking Act of 1933, the so-called Glass-Steagall Act, and whereas the current weight of trillions of dollars of debts foisted on the U.S. taxpayers in the 2008-2011 bailout of Wall Street is currently obliterating and destroying the economy of the United States and its people, and whereas it is the response to the failure of thousands of banks across the country that Congress enacted the Banking Act of 1933, and whereas the first step to solving this problem is the reinstatement of Glass-Steagall through the adoption and enactment of H.R. 1489 and H.R. 2451, and whereas the enactment of H.R. 1489 and H.R. 2451 would provide greater security to banking deposits in commercial banks, would allow investment banks to leverage their own funds and limit the risk of the American citizenry, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, hereby request that the United States Congress immediately pass H.R. 1489, H.R. 2451, and identical legislation in the Senate as the indispensable first measure to save the nation from irrevocable harm. A copy of this resolution will be sent to South Dakota's Congresswoman Kristi Noem and Senators Tim Johnson and John Thune. Okay, thank you for your response received. And this response was sent by a council member. It says, I agree that Glass-Steagall should be reenacted in some form, but I would suggest starting with our congressional delegation, not us. Thank you. Thank you for your response. My answer to that question is thank you. Stephanie Herseth as former Congresswoman, Kristi Noem as a candidate, and Kristi Noem as the current Congresswoman have both been contacted. They have both been questioned along these lines. Kristi Noem's line along the campaign trail was that she was going to study it. Okay? There has been no response from her since that time to repeated questionings and requests for her support. This is an example of classical tragedy. Both of these people were paralyzed. The essence of tragedy is knowing the truth and the necessity to act, but being paralyzed. Allowing a nation to be destroyed for the sake of the holders of money is the case in point here. So over the next 2 weeks, I am going to be in contact with each of you. I am going to give each of you the opportunity to resolve any of your questions you have about what Glass-Steagall is, and I would expect that the moral response, once you have all the information, would be to support Glass-Steagall, to support this resolution or one similar of your own to be adopted and forwarded to the Congresswoman, Kristi Noem. Thank you very much.
Melvin, thank you as well. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council? Welcome.
My name is Tam Baker. I live in Sioux Falls, 1713 South Williams Avenue. Mr. Mayor and members, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for letting me appear. I'm here tonight to express some concerns about the river ramp parking structure. I recently read in the Argus Leader, can't quote the date, but it seems the demolition of this structure is looming on the horizon. I'm a little confused as to when exactly that decision was made. I have not kept up with everything, but I did have an opportunity today to review some of the CIP from 2004. And as of 2004, the river ramp was still mentioned as being in the CIP in reference to 8th Street improvements, whatever. So I was wondering, when was it decided to let it go? And again, I'm a little hazy on when this is exactly supposed to happen. I believe people pay to park in there. I would guess that it brings in some kind of revenue. And what will happen to that revenue when we no longer have the river ramp parking structure? Also, where will business people who have come to depend on this river ramp for parking, where are they going to park that is going to be as convenient? Someone told me, oh, yes, we have parking available, but it's 2 blocks away. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but there must be some provision for lost parking for the people that work downtown. I hope you will consider carefully before this structure is demolished. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council? Well, very good. Thank you. We'll move on with our business to item number 11. No, item number 2.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Item 2, new 2011-12 retail malt beverage license for F&H Repair Service, Inc., Faiini Designs Jewelry Studio, to be operated at 6203 South Old Village Place with a conditional use permit being approved on 6/01/11. Item 3, new 2011 retail malt wine license for F&H Repair Service, Inc., Faiini Designs Jewelry Studio, to be operated at 6203 South Old Village Place with the conditional use permit being approved on 6/1/11. Item 4, new 2011-12 retail malt beverage license for Larry Michael Lang, Michael Steakhouse of Dodge City, to be operated at 2501 West Russell Street, full-service restaurant, CUP not required. Item 5, new 2011 retail wine license for Larry Michael Lang, Michael Steakhouse of Dodge City, to be operated at 2501 West Russell Street, full-service restaurant, CUP not required. Item 6, special one-day liquor license for downtown Sioux Falls to be operated at Falls Park West on Phillips Avenue from 5th Street North to 2nd Street for Downtown Live on August 20th, 2011. Item 7, special one-day liquor license for Southeastern Behavioral Health Care to be operated at the Avera Prairie Center, 1000 East 23rd Street for the Festival of Trees on November 18th, 2011. Item 8, special one-day liquor license request for Washington Pavilion Management, Inc., Washington Pavilion, 301 South Main Avenue for various special events on August 26th, September 20th, October 14th and 15th, November 19th, and December 10th, 2011. Item 9, special one-day liquor license for SMG to be operated at the Orpheum Theater, 315 North Phillips Avenue for a wedding reception on August 13th, 2011. Item 10, special one-day off-sale package wine license for the Sioux Falls Jazz and Blues Society to be operated at the Sioux Falls Convention Center, 1211 Northwest Avenue for the Expo for Her on October 14th through 15th, 2011.
Lori.
All right, Lori Hugstead with the City Attorney's Office. Thank you, Denise. I have items 2 through 10 tonight. Items 2, 3, 4, and 5 are new beer and wine licenses. 6 through 10 are special one-day licenses. I do have applicants present for the majority of the items if you have questions, or I can certainly answer questions on any of these items.
Lori, are there any of the owners who would like to speak to the council? There is an opportunity for you folks to speak
Yeah,
to the
if you
council
want
if you'd
to.
like. Anybody interested? Very good.
I think not.
Is there anyone in the audience who's not an owner who'd like to speak to this item? Very good. Council, any questions or comments?
Move approval, Erpenbach.
Second,
Hoffman.
It's been a motion by Councilor Erpenbach, seconded by Councilor Rolfing, to approve items 2 through 10. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 11.
Deferred for a meeting of June 13, 2011 and July 5, 2011. It's the second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, repealing Chapter 22 of the revised ordinances of the city and amending Chapters 23 and 28 of the revised ordinances of the city by including second-hand goods dealers and gun dealers and dealers in precious metals or precious gems.
Chief?
Good evening. Doug Barthel, Police Chief. This evening culminates about a dozen different public meetings that we've had regarding this ordinance, and after numerous opportunities to receive input and make adjustments and changes to the ordinance, we finally get to where we are this evening. after the last time this ordinance was deferred, we had a meeting where we again sent out letters to all the affected shop owners and invited them down and had that on June 28th. Again, we aren't going to come up with something that's going to totally agree with everybody, but we made several changes that we think will help address some of their concerns, and keep in mind that our goal in this whole thing is not to create a bunch of government regulation and try to see how many shop owners we can arrest or charge with violations of this ordinance. It's simply to help out the victims and get their property back to them, and if possible, we get those that are responsible for the crime and deal with them appropriately. So we have about 9 different things that we propose changing from what was already presented to the council the last time we met, and I'll briefly go through those. First one is under section 28-1 under definitions. We would add the definition of chief of police means the chief officer of the Sioux Falls Police Department or his designee who shall be an employee of the Sioux Falls Police Department or other person designated by the chief. However, such non-employee designee shall be with the advice and consent of the City Council. This change would address the issue that was raised by numerous individuals of the use of a non-employee designee, such as leads online, without input from the City Council. The second one is amend Section 28-1 definitions for secondhand goods dealers to add another section, subsection E, transactions by secondhand goods dealers in goods or articles of the type listed under the definition of secondhand goods dealer to the extent that such good or article is contained in and integrated into a motor vehicle, and said motor vehicle is the good or article actually being transacted. This is to address the concerns that were raised that the ordinance could be read to regulate car dealers, etc. It was not the intent of the ordinance to create regulation on car dealers and bring them in as secondhand goods dealers. If the item actually being transacted is a motor vehicle and it has electronics, etc., integrated into it, this will not trigger the secondhand goods dealer definition and require such business to obtain a license and be subject to this chapter. Under Section 28-3, we would amend that to change the change the casual purchase portion of that. This amendment change does 2 things. It takes out the casual purchase exception so that it does not apply unequally amongst the businesses. And second, it establishes a new exception from all requirements of this chapter for the merchant-to-merchant inventory purchase. And that was a point that was raised by a couple of people at the last meeting. Under Section 28-4, we would add the wording trades against new unused items and then add with higher fair market value. This is to address the loophole that was brought to our attention by some of the businesses in trades against new items where a person could bring in a used item with a higher value and trade it against a lower value item and get the rest in cash back. In essence, they'd be selling the used item and only picking up a minor new item to avoid the reporting requirement. This amendment requires that the new item traded against have a higher value than the item being traded in. Under Section 28-15, records required, we would there would be a couple of changes in there. We would under that it says a copy of the records required shall be provided in the manner prescribed by the chief of police. We would delete or his designee into the possession of the police department, or we would delete police department or its designee and just have chief of police within 7 days from the date of the purchase or receipt. This would also delete the tagging requirement that was in the original ordinance where they would have to tag each and every item. That was a concern that was brought by some of the shop owners. So we're taking out the designee, which indicates that it's the chief of police that decides the information to be obtained and receives the records. Then with the new definition of chief of police, which was mentioned earlier, that term means the chief, a member of the Sioux Falls Police Department, or any other person if that other non-employee is designated with the advice and consent of the City Council. Again, this is to address the leads online concerns for the future. And second, as I mentioned, it removes the labeling and tagging requirement where if they bring in say like a bucket of sockets, they don't have to tag each and every item. They just simply have to put a good description down, and that was kind of the agreement that we came to, that bulk items would need to be recorded and reported in detail, but then they would not be required to label each one individually. So under Section 28-16, access to records, records shall be open to inspection by, we delete the word just city police and have a member of the property crimes section of the city police department or his or her supervisor, and such inspections shall be for purposes of determining compliance with this chapter. This is to address the constitutionality concerns raised by the businesses regarding the distinction between administrative searches of closely regulated businesses and criminal investigative searches which would otherwise require a warrant or exception to the warrant requirement. This limits the access to records under this section to specific members of the police department, not the entire department, and for a specified purpose of determining whether the business is complying with the rules imposed by this chapter. The next one deals with hold orders under Section 28-19. The original proposal had a 90-day hold period, and we simply cut that in half to 45 days. This is to address concerns by the businesses of the length of time an item can be put on hold by the police department. Previously, there was no time limit, and items remained on hold indefinitely, which was actually a part of the impetus of the pawn audit. And the original proposal was to go from an indefinite time period to 90 days, and we proposed to cut that in half. The next one is articles available for inspection. We would simply delete city police officers, so it's not open to everybody, and just have it listed as a member of the property crime section of the city police department or his or her supervisor. And the last one is under Section 28-22, under fixed premises and license required. We would add, nothing in this section is intended to prohibit the occasional receipt of articles by a pawnbroker, dealer in precious metals or precious gems, gun dealer or secondhand goods dealer off the licensed premises. However, any such article received shall be recorded and reported in accordance to the provisions of Section 28-15 and held on the licensed premises according to the provisions of Section 28-17. And this is to address a concern raised by the businesses. They sometimes go to auctions, estate sales, etc., to purchase items. Under the current ordinance and the ordinance currently proposed, that would not be allowed, as the ordinance requires a fixed premises where all transactions occur. The occasional off-premise purchases is acceptable so long as the items are still recorded and reported and held on the licensed premises. There was also some discussion about holding the items at places other than the licensed premises, such as a storage facility for large items, and this can be addressed by the license. They just simply add that address to the license. So those are the proposals that came of that meeting. I think they addressed many of the concerns. Again, we aren't going to get everybody to come to an agreement, but I think we've come to a good compromise, and for those that have been involved in it from the beginning, from where we started and where we're at today, it's actually a huge shift. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chief Barthel, thank you. Folks, this is a second reading that was deferred from a prior meeting. There was a lot of public discussion at the last meeting, but we certainly want to offer you an opportunity to speak again to this item. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak to the council?
Yes.
Welcome.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, Mr. Mayor, and council members. I have not been a participant in this, mostly because I've been out of the country for a little vacation, and so I haven't had a chance to be part and parcel of this, but I do have questions since I'm a small business owner and have some definite interest in how this would be applied. I'll skip over on how do contracts get let to leads without them. Do they go through the city council or not? I mean, when they use leads online, it said that something about a contract. This would abrogate the contract if this were not applied in a certain fashion. I see the loophole of rummage sales without having, when you can have 4 a year. I don't know anybody that's got enough junk in their house to have 4 in a year. When you're doing that, that means you're a small business, and I know of small business people who do that sort of thing on a regular basis. I was interested to see that the police chief, in the manner prescribed or approved by the chief of police, which means that he has the possibility of giving ordinance level clout to what he has to say about how a person is to do business. I would think that if that were part of the council members, that you are elected. Now, if it was the sheriff, I wouldn't have a problem because that's an elected official. But when you have an appointed person making rules and regulations, that seems to be a little bit off the beaten path. The hold orders, when you talk about that, I mean, I know a lot of people who buy gold and silver, and part of the reason for buying that is because you're making the market, and the market is volatile. And if you buy something on a Tuesday and you hold it for 45 days, you could lose your shirt. So, I mean, this is one of those things that seems a little bit of a, when you're dealing with the gold and silver as it is today. Somebody bought gold at $1,400 an ounce, $1,450 in the last week. They have to wait another month and a half before they can sell it. That puts a crimp on their style. What do you do with the mail order gold buyers in the community? They send you letters, they buy gold. How do you regulate that? When you talk about a fixed premises, I can agree with that because I've seen an awful lot of these, we'll use the word roadshow buyers, who come in, have a hotel room, and they literally rip the public off. I know that they were in town here at some recent time in the past. They were paying $12 a piece for silver dollars. $12 a piece, when the average coin dealer in Sioux Falls was paying $30. If they have to have a fixed premises, I can agree with that, and they should have a fixed premises in Sioux Falls. Because if a person has a fixed premises in Minneapolis, you don't have any of the jurisdictional capacity to deal with that. Now, I'm a small business owner, and I have bought and sold a lot of things in the last 39 years. Amongst them were some gold wristwatches that have gold cases, or pocket watches, or maybe the person had a few coins. I'm not a coin buyer. I'm not a gold buyer. But if I bought a quantity of things from the individual, now that means that I have to suddenly become a person who has to ask them, would I please give me your driver's license number, your number of adult children, and all the rest that goes with it to make sure that they are a qualified person to sell me that good. So I'm going to have to forego that opportunity. And if I were really on top of it, I'd set up shop just outside of the city limits, and I wouldn't have to comply. So I'm thinking that if it isn't good for somebody outside of the city, why is it good for someone inside the city? Because this will only apply to the city limits of Sioux Falls. So my curiosity is, I think there's a little massaging that could be done on this yet. When you have rummage sale loopholes and things of that nature, I think there could be a little bit more done with it. I think you're getting close, but I don't think it's there yet. Thank you.
Bob, thank you. Before you leave, would you mind just letting the people of Sioux Falls know your full name as
Robert
well as
Colby,
for the record?
636 West 21st, small business owner in Sioux Falls, for self-employed small business owner for 39 plus years.
We really appreciate your comments. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address the council on this particular topic? Welcome. You made it.
In the nick of time.
And if you could just state your name, please.
My name is Linda Stoops.
Thank you, Linda.
I work at Sunset Pond, so that would be the connection to this. I see that this is going forward. I missed the beginning part of the meeting. I have some concerns still. I think I have emailed you all a list of questions that you should look into as far as the Leads Online issue goes. I'm not sure if you've looked into that or not. It was enough for Smyrna, Georgia, who is also looking into a database like this, to immediately drop the idea of doing a database. There's just too much liability involved with this. You can call the numbers yourself, of course, call and ask them. I'm not sure if any of you did that. I would guess that the same conclusion would be drawn by you if you did that. This has been an issue that's been going on for quite some time, and I'm really hoping that before you vote on this, you stop and think of a couple things. First of all, the police were not elected to write laws. You were. You were elected to write laws. What they're trying to do is pass a law that gives them a lot of power that I don't think you mean for them to have. First of all, they're writing a law, pretty much the whole thing, and just handing it to you. They're making the decisions on what is good to negotiate on. That was all they're doing, like, well, we'll pay attention to this, but maybe not this. It should not have been their choice. They further have written into this law parts of it that are like a blank check. For instance, part of it says where they have the portions that have the chief of police or his designee. You'll remember those parts. I think there's about 4 different places. Pretty much everywhere you see that, right before it, you will see a statement of what they should be able to do, they think. For instance, one of the things is they can decide whatever records they want to have kept. You guys were not on the city council at the time, but about 8 or 10 years ago, the police actually wanted everybody to be fingerprinted. Is that really what you want? You're giving them a blank check if you pass this the way it is, because they could demand that, and there's nothing we could do about it, and you would have no say in it at all. I really don't think that's what you want, is it? I mean, I can't believe that that's what you want for what you know to be 99.9% of the customers who are not thieves, who are not doing anything wrong, who are transacting legitimate business in licensed business places. That's not what you want, I don't think. I think better of you than to think that's what you want, I guess. There's a lot of concerns about this. As far as you guys writing law, I know that Mr. Jameson has put a lot of time and effort into looking into this in the time since it was delayed to look at it again. I know Kenny Anderson looked into this a lot. Are you getting their input? As I understood it, Mr. Jameson was working on an actual presentation of his own. I don't know if he just didn't get it done in time or if that's something that is going to come up later in the meeting. I missed the beginning, so I don't know. But I would hope that you would look at that. He's one of the people that was elected to write law. He's taken it on himself, as did Kenny, to go through and actually look at the issues, to actually maybe read the business people's proposal, to look into it and come up with his own idea of, what do you think is fair, what's not. And I'm not sure. Maybe you've already talked with him about that. I don't know where that's at. But I do hope that you give him a chance to present that to you guys. Anyway, I'm not sure what all was said before, but I'll bow out at this point because the honest truth is there's nothing we can say to you that you haven't heard already. We've said things over and over again that should have been the end of the story. There wasn't a problem like you were told there was. Everything from how terribly hard this will be for businesses to how terrible it is to be putting people forever on a database to be searched without warrants for the rest of their life. I haven't seen any of you rush down to the pawn shop to put your names on the list. You're welcome to come, as I've told you before. None of you have, nor have any of the police. You know better. Why would you want that for people walking in to do business in our businesses? Think long and hard before you pass this. There's some real problems here. Thanks for your time.
Linda, thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak to the council on this item? Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, members, my name is Chuck Armstrong. I'm the Director of Community Affairs for PAWN America. I spoke at the last meeting on this, basically in support of the ordinance, and I want to commend the police what they've done in their outreach on this one, also what the council has done to doing this. We push very hard and argue very hard, whether it's in the Dakotas, Minnesota, or Wisconsin, for a fair and equitable playing field, and this is what we see this ordinance bringing forth. Just a point, just to remind everybody, we have we download into Leads Online in every location we have. And right now we're 23 operating locations, 24th will be next month. But even if we're not required, we voluntarily load into Leads Online. It's a very good system we found. We've never experienced problems. And it's actually, we found it's actually helped some of our communities and the businesses with that, and also law enforcement. So members, I'm here to answer questions, but again, I just wanted to reiterate our support of this ordinance.
Chuck, thank you.
Thanks.
Folks, anyone else before the council reviews this item? Very good. City Council, did you have any questions for Chief Barthel or any motions you would like to make? Yes, Councilor Jameson.
If we could have the chief or any of his designees, staff, come up. Just a couple questions that maybe Bob Kolb brought up as well. The out-of-towners who come to town and operate business, they're still subject to all the rules and regulations within our city limits.
Correct. And just to clarify, I think there was a misunderstanding about the hold period. It's actually 14 days. The 45 days when we actually put a hold on if we think the item possibly might be stolen.
And how is it that these businesses are getting by coming in and setting up a kind of a road show?
Well, they really aren't. I mean, they're still
okay.
Subject to the provisions of the ordinance, and
They just may not ever get caught.
If we get word that they're doing that without the proper license, we'll obviously take action.
The other question, one of the questions was on the manner in which the police chief wants the, I think it's the records to be kept.
Mm-hmm.
Describe that and how do you see that language being a business owner like Bob or Linda typing in that information? What would you see?
I don't see that changing any different from what we're doing today.
Okay.
They will enter that information into an online database, which currently we contract with Leads Online. That's just a company. There are others out there that do that. They'll enter in the information of the person pawning the item as well as much detail on the item itself that they can into the system. And there's two different reasons why we need both pieces to that. First off, if a victim reports an item and we're able to tie that back together by the description of the item, it's easy to search the database and find that. And actually, if there's a serial number, it will do it automatically and piece those two together. The reason that we need the personal information is if we may have information that a certain suspect has been involved in crimes or we think might be involved, and that's the only way that we can then go in and see have they been pawning items, and then, matter of fact, that happens quite frequently, and then we can tie that case back to them.
As well, if I could, just to kind of go through these. The idea of the value of gold and its volatility, and the idea that somebody takes it in on a day and it turns to go down in value. How do we? Is there an exemption or a way for that owner to dispose of that property without having to wait 14 days?
Yes, and we specifically address that. And if they're taking in a large quantity of gold or precious metals, they simply need to contact us. We'll give them the exception, and once we hear about the transaction, and allow them to move that so they aren't sitting on it for 14 days, because we know the price can change considerably.
A couple of other ones that are probably unrelated so much to Bob's comments, but the other day I was at one of the businesses trying to understand even more about how these businesses operated. We saw a transaction occur where a detective came in with an individual and they pulled out an item from the inventory and removed that from the store, essentially. Why wouldn't you come in with a warrant and ask for that? Or could you just explain that process? I think you and I have talked, we know how that unfolded, but why not just come in with a warrant, say, I need this item, and we want to take it? Why don't you just do that versus the procedure you have today?
In that specific case, which is not uncommon, the suspect had been involved in a crime in previous days, and so we then checked to see if there had been any current transactions that had been pawned, and in this case there was. We noticed that he had pawned a speaker, and there was a description of it, but it wasn't very detailed. It certainly sounded real close to what our victim was reporting, so the detective went there with the victim to look at the speaker, and sure enough, it's the same one that was stolen from them. If we were to obtain a warrant, first off, we'd have to have all of the information in place to get the warrant, and then if we know that that item is there, we're going to have to close the business or at least secure it so that people aren't coming and going from the business while we obtain the warrant to make sure that property doesn't leave the premises. And frankly, it could take a couple of hours to write the warrant, contact a judge, get it signed, go through that whole process. And there are many exceptions to the warrant, which, this is constitutional law, and this ordinance certainly does not try to regulate the Constitution. But, just if the officers were to go in the store and see that speaker sitting there and he recognized that as one that's possibly stolen, it's a plain view exception, so they could certainly seize that. And frankly, I don't know why the shops wouldn't want to cooperate with us. And if there's an item that's possibly stolen, why wouldn't they want to work with us together rather than making us jump through the hoops to get a warrant? Now, if they were to actually refuse, we certainly could do that and get the warrant.
So if the business owner refused, a warrant would just be the normal exercise to get the property?
Yes.
And through the cooperation, hopefully you can just make it smoother and...
Yes, and I don't ever recall that it has come to that.
On the bulk items that come in, when somebody gets a box of 50 CDs or DVDs that come in, or let's use that as an example. How would this business owner have to enter that data? Would they have to write every title of every CD or every DVD?
Technically they are supposed to put as much detail as they possibly can. First off, I highly doubt that a victim is going to be able to come up with a list of 50 CDs that were stolen from them. But if there's identifying marks on there, maybe a name written on there, or maybe it's a theme of music, of certain different artists, those sort of things can really help if we're trying to track it through the database. Anything of that nature that they can enter in there, but we certainly aren't going to require them to enter in all 50 CDs, title, and artist.
And you did a great thing by eliminating all the tagging, because that was a big stumbling block for some of the business owners that I talked to. And a good example is a tackle box that comes in with all of those little hooks,
right,
and all that. What you're looking for is somebody to describe that tackle box with some colors, some descriptive characteristics of the box. I mean, that's what you're looking for, right? You're not looking for them to go in and label each hook.
No,
or anything. Okay.
Exactly. And it was kind of a fine line on how many items you tag and how many you don't you, and so rather than seeing certain dollar amounts, we decided to just eliminate it completely. But in your example, describe the brand of it, the color, maybe if there's a name on it, anything of that nature, maybe different types of lures. But no, you certainly are going to have to write down all 300 different types of lures and hooks and so forth.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good job, Councilor Jameson. Councilor Urbanbach.
A couple questions for you, Chief. Kind of basic things, but I just want to be reminded of this. I want to buy a new computer, and I'm going to take in the old one and trade it in for that new one. Is that going to apply? Am I going to have to be registered to do that?
No, if you're trading up, no, you do not have to do that.
Okay. My other question then is about used books and antique furniture. Do those things apply in this particular ordinance?
No, they do not.
And how would I know that if I'm a secondhand dealer? How would I know whether that applies or not?
Well, it's written. There's exceptions written right into the ordinance, and we've notified all of them. They've all received copies of this, and if and when this becomes final, they can access it online or they can contact the police department. We'd be happy to sit down with them. We know that there are going to be some shops that aren't currently under this requirement if this goes through, and so we're going to sit down with any of them that need help setting up the access online, tutor them however we need to, because frankly we're working together on this, and we aren't trying to be the enemy in this. We want to work together and try and make it as smooth as possible for them, and back to my two original goals on this.
Good, thank you. Then if I could, Mayor, I'd like to ask the attorney one question. I want you to do just basic government for us real quick. Remind us how we get ordinances to the point where we discuss them here. Can one of us just decide we're going to do an ordinance and write it and put it out here for us to discuss? Can you give us the Reader's Digest version of how an ordinance becomes law?
Well, Councilor Erpenbach, I mean, an ordinance can be proposed either, a proposal can come from the mayor or from two city councilors. We'll put it on the agenda, and an ordinance, proposed ordinance would go through a first reading and also a second reading. And certainly the city council has made it a protocol now that it goes to committee first. And for this particular item, it has gone to the Public Services Committee and has been discussed at that committee at several of their meetings before we got to this point.
Good, thank you.
Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Chief Bartel, just a couple quick questions. When a victim reports a property crime and that crime is placed into the police log, what information is in there, in that police log on that crime? Let's say something's stolen, whether it's an electronic piece, a speaker, do we give any description of the items that are stolen in the police log?
No.
It's just...
No, we generally don't give out victim information other than that someone was a victim of a crime and the location of the crime, that sort of thing. We don't give out victim addresses, although it's very possible that the location of the crime could be their address, but we don't give out victim information or suspect information, only the facts that the crime occurred, where it occurred, and if someone was arrested.
Okay. And my next question would be for Rich Oskell from the Audit Department.
Thank you, Rich. If you could just state your name, please.
Yeah, Rich Oaksoll, Lead Internal Auditor, City of Sioux Falls.
Thank you. Councilor?
Thank you, Rich. This started with an audit request taking a look at how the police handle items that are confiscated from pawn shops, correct?
That is correct.
And in your findings, when you were given some items to research, what were your findings on those items?
A number of the items had been on hold for quite a long period of time, in some cases for years, and that was a concern that the item would be put on hold and then the pawn shop owner would not know the disposition of that particular item. It'd just be taken away for a number of years, and that was obviously a concern. I understand this new ordinance would change that to, I believe, 45 days, if I'm reading the ordinance.
That's a hold order.
That's the hold order,
right.
Yeah. When a piece of property is suspected of being stolen, and the police would put it on hold, so it cannot be sold.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to bring out there.
Okay.
So I do have another question for Chief Bartel, or
Chief?
part of his property unit. Chief, what changes are we making now so that we can track these items that we're confiscating from pawn shops? I guess will be my first question on that.
And actually, the change has already been implemented. It's in place. We've created a spreadsheet that we're tracking, and the current sergeant of the property crime section, who happens to be Matt Burns, is the one that monitors that, tracks it. He's the contact person, although if he's not there, certainly anyone in that section can access that and give a status update on that. And I know there was a suggestion that was mentioned earlier that perhaps we go through those every month or so and just update the shop owners on where their items at in the system, and just so they aren't thinking that it's just hanging out there. So I know that was a concern that came up in the audit. It's not specifically addressed in the ordinance because that was their suggestion to do it outside of the ordinance. But as I said, that's been in place for about 6 months, and so we're going to do what we can to correct that, and we already have. And if there are ways we can communicate with them better, certainly are open to doing that.
With that database, how are the pawn shops to be notified on the movement of that article? If it's moved into a court where a judge is going to make the decision, how would they be able to apply for a status as being a victim, looking for reimbursement on that?
They certainly can contact Sergeant Burns, or again, anybody from that section, to find out where the property's at. But we actually notify the courts when we have victims or for restitution, that sort of thing. So they can do that communication through our detectives, and we certainly can send that along with the case.
Okay, and then, if I
Please,
can,
Counselor.
when we were talking about going in and the subject that you used was the person, or I guess that Councilman Jameson used for a subject was a person coming in with an officer looking for a stolen speaker, and that speaker was confiscated. Why do we have the 45-day hold period if we're going to go in there, look at items, and confiscate them? Wouldn't that 45-day hold period suffice for holding that item till we have a warrant so that we can start the trail of evidence that normally is done in a criminal investigation?
Well, actually, in that case, the sooner that we can get in there and identify it, the quicker we can get the suspect charged with it, get this thing through the court system, and hopefully get the property back to the owner, and get people compensated for their losses. So to drag it out even longer, the 45 days is really just a limit, so we don't hold it any longer than that. To be honest with you, our hope is to have it resolved way sooner than 45 days. That was put in place for those few anomalies where, frankly, we're just hanging out there and nothing was being done with them. So we're now being put on notice that we can't do that anymore.
Okay. That's all I have right
Thank
now.
you.
Thank you.
Councilor Jameson.
Chief, I like the idea of you reaching out a little more to the business owners and follow up on the items that you've received. I think that's a good idea. I would encourage you to improve and or do anything to communicate more, I guess. Just a couple other questions. On the section of the revision here, 28-3, on the item of, I think it's called casual purchases of inventory from other businesses, do you have to purchase the entire inventory for it to be exempt, or could you purchase partial inventories?
Actually, that's a new one that was added from the meeting that we just had on the 28th, and there was one individual who brought up the occasion where he buys out entire businesses and wanted an exemption for that. So that's why we put that in there. And rather than saying that, up to a certain percentage or whatever, we really want to try and avoid, and we don't have any reason to believe this is happening today. Actually, I know it's not, but it's to avoid having someone come in and set up a temporary shop, basically, and it's kind of a ghost front where they can take in the property and then have a legitimate pawn shop come in and say they're buying that property from them, although they don't buy all of the inventory, basically wash it, the sale, bring it into their pawn shop, and that transaction is never reported to us. So.
Okay, and as well, just how many property crimes or thefts how many calls a year do you receive, I guess?
Well, actual thefts, last year our department responded about 84,000 calls. Of that, about 14,000 ended up in a report being done where follow-up investigations had to be done by a detective. Burglaries and thefts, we're talking into the thousands that we investigate every year, well into the thousands.
And just one other, if I could. While it's true I've spent an enormous amount of time on this particular item, I've become more knowledgeable of pawn shops than I've ever been in my life, as well as the police department. Today we had 2 small business owners show up to speak in opposition of this. We have one, what I would call a larger multi-chain business, show up and support the changes. While I agree what you do and your work is very important, needed business in our community. It needs to be done as fast and as efficient as possible. Would you see a potential in the future that after a short order of 6 months or some time frame, that after this ordinance is passed and businesses are now acting within this realm, that you could see us come back if we're called to the task by others to say, look, there's still things that need to get done here, and unintended consequences that occurred, would you see yourself willing to review this at least in a? I know how can you say no, but I guess what I'm really saying is I think that'd be really a good idea for us to pursue this in the future, that we review the changes we've made to make sure that they're fitting right, they're helping you do your job by solving crime and returning these stolen merchandise, but as well we're not impeding a huge impact on the businesses. Would you be open to that?
Well, first, I wouldn't wait 6 months. If
Okay.
I knew that there was an issue or a problem, I'm going to bring it to your attention. We're going to make changes much sooner rather than just let it sit out there and stew. I know we could sit and meet on this forever and we're never going to come to an agreement, so I would hate in 6 months to rehash everything that we've already have gone through. But if there are unforeseen issues that arise because of these changes, then absolutely, I would be open to looking at changes.
Thank you.
Councilor Urbanbach.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move approval.
Second Aguilar.
There's been a motion to approve item number 11. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Questions or comments? Councilor Anderson, Jr.
For the Assistant City Attorney,
Good evening.
good evening.
Keith Allenstein, City Attorney's Office.
Thank you. Quick question. With the searches on leads online, we discussed the difference between, or just discussed, administrative searches and criminal searches. Could you explain the differences between the two?
Well, that's what we added in, the types of, I guess I don't know how it really applies to the leads online, but to physically go in and search at the businesses, that's what we changed in a couple of the sections there. We limited it to just the property crime section and also added in the language that it be for purposes of determining compliance, to separate out the administrative role that the police department plays in these types of closely regulated businesses and making sure that they're following the ordinances versus, hey, I've got a hit on an item and just going in and demanding seeing it. So again, we hope we never have to demand. Hope we just get the consent and the cooperation of the pawn shops. But this will separate out if a pawn shop really, or secondhand goods or whomever wishes to put the police department's feet to the fire and require a warrant. This separates that out and would require a warrant unless an exception applies.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Urbanbach.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend. My motion adds to Section 28-1 definitions. Chief of Police means the chief officer of the Sioux Falls Police Department or his or her designee who shall be an employee of the Sioux Falls Police Department or other person designated by the chief. However, such non-employee designee shall be with advice and consent of the City Council.
Second Aguilar.
There's been a motion by Councilor Urbanbach to amend the main motion. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Did we get that in the record? Yes. Very good.
If I might, Mr. Mayor, I did.
Councilor Urbanbach.
I did alter the wording one word.
You did?
I didn't do what I said I would do. I added his or her designee.
Did you get that? Very good. Thank you. Is there any comments or questions in regards to the amendment to the main motion? Very good. If I could have a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Any further discussion on the amended main motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Urbanbach,
I would like to make a motion to amend.
please.
I'm amending Section 28-1 definitions for secondhand goods dealer to add subsection E. Transactions by secondhand goods dealers in goods or articles of the type listed under the definition of secondhand goods dealer to the extent that such good or article is contained in and integrated into a motor vehicle and said motor vehicle is the good or article actually being transacted.
Second Aguilar.
It's been a motion by Councilor Urbanbach to amend the amended main motion, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any discussion on this item? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor
I
Vermont.
would like to make a motion to amend the main motion.
Please.
I'm amending Section 28-3, removing casual purchase by dealer in precious metals or precious gems from the title and adding certain purchases of the inventory of other businesses, removing the word casual before purchase, and adding by a pawnbroker, dealer in precious metals or precious gems, gun dealer, or secondhand goods dealer licensed under this chapter. Removing after the word any the sentence precious metal or precious gem previously sold at retail or coins, nor to purchases at an occasional coin or antique show, the primary purpose of which is showing rather than buying or selling the regulated articles, and adding regulated article from another pawnbroker, dealer in precious metals or precious gems, gun dealer or secondhand goods dealer licensed under this chapter, if the purchase is with the purpose of buying up the entire inventory of the purchasee. Nor do the provisions of this chapter apply to the purchase by a pawnbroker, dealer in precious metals or precious gems, gun dealer or secondhand goods dealer licensed under this chapter of any new, unused, not previously sold at retail, regulated article purchased by said pawnbroker, dealer in precious metals or precious gems, gun dealer or secondhand goods dealer from the inventory of a business with a state sales tax license issued by the state of South Dakota or any other state, if the purchase is done with the purpose of buying up the entire inventory of the purchase.
Second Aguilar.
There has been a motion by Councilor Erpenbach to make an amendment to the amended main motion. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Any discussion? Council, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Erpenbach.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the main motion by amending Section 28-4, trades against new unused items, by adding with higher fair market value to the end of the title, and adding which is of higher value than the used or traded article after the word value.
Second Aguilar.
It's been a motion by Councilor Erpenbach to amend the amended main motion, seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Any discussion on this item? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you, City Council. It's passed 8-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Erpenbach.
I'd like to make an amendment to the main motion.
Thank you.
I
Please
am
do.
amending 28-15, records required, by removing or his designee from subsections A, B, and C. Also in subsection C, replacing police department or its designee with chief of police, and removing subsection D.
Second Aguilar.
Councilor Erpenbach's made a motion to amend the amended main motion. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any further discussion on this item, Council? A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Erpenbach.
I would like to amend the main motion.
Very good.
I'm amending Section 28-16, access to records, by removing the words "the city police" and adding "a member of the property crimes section of the city police department or his or her supervisor. Such inspections shall be for purposes of determining compliance with this chapter."
Second Aguilar.
There has been a motion made by Councilor Erpenbach to amend the amended main motion. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any further discussion on this item? A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
No.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 7-1.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Erpenbach.
I would like to amend the main motion by amending Section 28-19, hold orders, by changing all references of 90 days to 45 days.
Is there a second?
Second Aguilar.
Thank you. There has been a motion by Councilor Erpenbach, seconded by Councilor Aguilar, to amend the amended main motion. Is there any further discussion on this item? A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Urbanbach.
I would like to amend the main motion, amending Section 28-20, Articles Available for Inspection, by removing city police officers and adding after the word inspection, for purposes of determining compliance with this chapter, such inspections shall be by a member of the Property Crimes Section of the City Police Department or his or her supervisor.
Second Aguilar.
There has been a motion by Councilor Urbanbach to amend the amended main motion. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Any further discussion, Council? A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0.
And finally, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor
I would
Urbanbach.
like to make an amendment to the main motion amending Section 28-22, fixed premises and license required, by adding subsection C. Nothing in this section is intended to prohibit the occasional receipt of articles by a pawnbroker, dealer in precious metals or precious gems, gun dealer, or secondhand goods dealer off the licensed premises. However, any such article received shall be recorded and reported in according to the provisions of Section 28-15 and held on the licensed premises according to the provisions of Section 28-17.
Second Aguilar.
There has been a motion by Councilor Urbanbach to amend the amended main motion. It was seconded by Councilor Aguilar. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Urbanbach, and thank you, City Council. We do have an amended main motion to consider. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Anderson, Jr.
This has been a long trail with this ordinance. I am very happy that the council decided to take a second look at this and work with the police department and the business owners to make these amendments. This may not be perfect, but it is a good start to the conversation, and I hope that in 6 months or a little longer than that we relook at this and see if there's any changes we have to make. I will support this.
Mayor?
Councilor Aguilar.
I do have a question for the chief.
Chief Barthel.
In our notes, we have for June 2nd that we needed to add sporting goods and sporting equipment. So does that motion still need to be made
No, we did that in the last council meeting,
with the first reading?
the second reading.
Oh, okay. We've already had it. This is the second reading.
Yeah.
Second,
Okay.
yeah.
Second reading.
Thank you.
The third second reading.
Yes, Councilor Jameson.
I'd like to thank the council as well for taking a little extra time on this. I know when I asked for the deferral, it wasn't with glee from everybody, but I think it was a great example of showing how the administration and his staff essentially could make still more compromises to fall more in line with what the businesses were looking to do. It isn't perfect. There are still more challenges out there. But I want to make sure that I thank the council for their extra time and diligence, and the mayor and his staff for their work. The chief and I sat through a long meeting along with his staff. It must have been picture day for the chief because he had his uniform on. And it must have been 5 hours or so, but he sat there, and all of his staff did, and went through a lot of stuff. And I think it's just worth noting that it was a lot of work to get here. And thank you.
Councilor Jameson, great job. Thank you. City Council, thank you so much. We do have a 9-time amended main motion to consider. Hearing no further discussion, if we could have a vote on the amended main motion.
Councilors Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Urbanbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item number 12.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at West 59th Street and South Louise Avenue from the O Office District and the 57th Street East Plan Development District to the C-4 Plan Commercial District, petition number 2011-06-05, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening, Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. We have a petition by Vernati Motors, and the petition is requesting approval to expand their car sales and display area along a section near West 59th Street in Louise. This parcel is approximately 9.5 acres in size. It's located on the northeast corner of their current facility. This area was originally proposed for office development, and with the expansion of the car lot, they now have a desire to utilize additional land for their operation. With approval of this by City Council, there will still be a conditional use permit application required for this to be authorized as a car sales and display area. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of this rezoning request.
Mr. Cooper, thank you. And folks, this is only a first reading, so you won't have an opportunity to engage the council this time. But if they do set a second reading, you will. Council, is there any discussion or questions of Mr. Cooper? Councilor Anderson, Jr.
Mike, I've been over in that area several different times, especially on 59th Street. Is there any part of this plan that is going to allow them to have their semis that deliver and take their vehicles do that off of the street on their property?
I think
because they are clogging that street up pretty well.
Yeah, it becomes a real congested area with everything from customers to employees to deliveries. And so as we go through the conditional use permit review, that's one of the things that we'll take a look at, is how they can address that.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Rolfe.
Mike, have you checked with the other buildings around there to see what their thoughts are on this?
Well, we have our new notification process now,
Okay,
so
that will go on
they
that.
have all received a letter
Okay,
about
super.
the upcoming conditional use permit.
You'll be going on the radio, I assume, then? Okay, thank you.
Whatever it takes to let people know.
Michael?
This is just a map of property owners that would be notified about a planning commission meeting, and that would be August 3rd, potentially, if the rezoning does get approved.
Great teamwork there. Thank you. Yes, Councilor Entman.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we set the hearing for the second reading.
Very good. Councilor Entman has set date of hearing and second reading for Monday, August 1st at 7 p.m. for this item. Is there a second?
Second, Anderson.
There is a second by Councilor Anderson, Jr. Council, any further questions or comments? If we could have a vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 13.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment, petition number 2011-06-02 to Chapter 15.45.070, Plan Development Districts at 5400 East Arrowhead Parkway, or amending the Red Rock Park Plan Development District sub-area regulations. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a city staff-initiated request to amend land uses that are currently identified in this particular plan development zoning district. And this is the area generally on the East Arrowhead Parkway and Highline Avenue. The purpose of the amendment is to clarify that on-sale alcohol is only allowed as an accessory use to convenience stores. Get and Go was recently authorized to go on the site, and a license was approved by the council. But again, we do allow other potential commercial development in this area, and we wanted to clarify that prior to any other development, that we wanted to make sure that it was clearly stated that off-sale alcohol is only going to be allowed as an accessory use. If a petitioner wanted to come forward with a request to change that, then that would have to go through another major amendment, which would require city council action.
Ms. Cooper, thank you. Council, any questions, comments, motions?
Move to set the second reading for Monday, August 1st, 2011 at 7 p.m.
Second, Entenmann.
Councilor Anderson's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. Hearing no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Pass 8-0. Item 14.
First reading an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 124 South Elmwood Avenue from the RD Residential District to the I-1 Light Industrial District. Petition number 2011-05-04 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends denial.
On behalf of the petitioner for this item, Ron Weber, we would like to request City Council deferral of this first reading to the August 1st City Council meeting. And the purpose of the deferral is to allow additional time for city staff to work with the applicant on other options to allow the continued use of an existing storage building on this property.
Council, would anybody want to consider that?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to defer the second reading to August 15th, 2011.
August 1st. August 1st would be the request.
First reading to August 1st. I apologize. I read a lot tonight.
You did well.
I just didn't get that
No,
far.
I commend you.
Second, Karski.
There's been a motion to defer the first reading of item 14 to August 15th at 7 p.m.
No, sir.
Oh, no. I'm
First
sorry.
reading. The first reading to August 1st and the second reading to August 15th.
Thank you very much. Great job. That's why you good folks are here. You did a great job. We're going to defer the first reading to August 1st, the second reading to August 15th. It was seconded by Councilor Karski. Any further discussion on that deferral motion? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. That is passed 8-0. Item 15.
A resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards.
Would you mind reading that to the public, please? Those on board.
Yes, sir. Michael Ness, the board would be the Arena Convention Entertainment Center Board for the appointed for a term from July 2011 to July 2016 to replace Susan E. Scott. Ryan Pitty, the board would be the Arena Convention Entertainment Center Board, appointed for a term from July 2011 to July 2016 to replace Lee B. Otis. And Ben Arndt for the Arena Convention Entertainment Center Board, appointed for a term from July 2011 to May 2014 to fill the unexpired term of Craig Pomrinsky.
I should drive by that. Yep, me too.
Very good. Council, any questions, comments, or motions on that?
Move to approve. Entenmann.
Second, Brown.
Councilor Entenmann's made a motion to approve item 15, seconded by Councilor Brown. Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 16.
A resolution correcting districts for the members of the Districting Commission from Resolution 51-11.
Deborah, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. If I may, and pardon me for the transposition and error, but in our last resolution that the council approved to appoint the members to redistrict our city, we had the wrong districts for Ann Reeve Randall, who should have been southeast, and Mary Helen Glensky, who should have been northeast, and those are corrected in your resolution before you.
Thank you.
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second, Anderson.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to approve item 16, seconded by Councilor Anderson Jr. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Intiman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Thank you, City Council. That is passed 8-0. City Council, is there any other business you'd like to transact tonight?
Move to adjourn.
Second, Entenmann.
There has been a motion to adjourn by Councilor Karski, seconded by Councilor Entenmann. I did want to let the people of Sioux Falls know that Troop 150 has stayed with us this entire time. We're now 1 hour and 20 minutes into it. They all look fresh. They all look energized. And I think they learned something.
They look ready for ice cream.
Is there any further discussion? Very good. A roll call vote, please.
Councilors Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Entman?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. City of Sioux Falls, your council did a great job tonight. This meeting is adjourned.